Okay, so once again, why is it that this topic is? Oh, that's right. It's being brought up because of the protest at the DNC, the Free Palestine crowd. However, there are a lot of people who are demanding that Candace Owens be removed from the internet and be canceled because of a rant that she did this past weekend on Twitter. But the thing is this right here. There's a lot to obviously criticize here, but there's also a lot, if you really and truly look into it, to kind of question the motives of why it was that she chose to, I don't know, here's a slice of it.
Before they decided to establish Israel as a country. I know you've read like the short version in the classroom, and it was like, oh, the Holocaust happened, and then we realized that Israel needs a state. No, that's not how it went down. That's not how it went down at the F all, okay?
A lot of people are trying to cancel her, and a lot of people believe that she will be canceled. However, something just tells me that it's not going to matter either way, but we'll get to that here soon. But make sure you guys stick around for the full video because we got a lot to discuss in a very, very little amount of time. Some of this just came off as crazy gobbledygook, and of course it went on for roughly 25 minutes, but I'm not here to criticize her, I really truly not. Now, as many of you guys know, when I've done these videos on Candace Owens and we've talked about the nation of Israel, I haven't never really truly criticized her, even though I disagree with her. I have a different feeling altogether, which I'll explain more towards the end of the video. But obviously, the topic of criticizing nations and does that make you a bad person or does it make you anti-Semitic has obviously popped back up online. Now, let me go ahead and say this before we get started. And of course, obviously, there's going to be a couple of things that have got to be laid down before I get started because of the Google gods, and I know how YouTube is, and they'll probably limit the ads on the video. But I want to go ahead and say this right now. The situation in the Israeli-Gaza war is the thing that's really gotten people talking about America's involvement, how much money is sent overseas to said nations. And I think I've been pretty consistent. I do want America to be good on the foreign policy front, but also at the same time, though, I also want America to not give money to countries that, quite frankly, we have no vested interest in, or nations like, say, I got to bring this up because Candace Owens has been criticized for criticizing Brigitte Macron, the wife of French President Emmanuel Macron. That right there is like the one nation in Europe I tend to criticize the most because I don't think they really provide us any help. There'll be another reason why you guys will see that towards the end of the video because obviously Vinny and Adam decided that they wanted to go at it. And Vinny said something that, quite frankly, not relating to Israel, but something relating to, let's just say, something that we did in our past that, quite frankly, I think does need to be addressed because some people obviously still go with certain narratives tours in said place. But what I wanted to get out of the way is the fact that I have obviously defended Candace before, and I've obviously criticized Candace before. Most of the stuff she talks about, I agree with her on, but I also at the same time don't agree with her with most of her Israel takes. But still at the same time, though, I also believe a lot of her takes come from a, let's just say, it's funny. A lot of these people who have these takes, they don't speak to actual evangelical Christians or Messianic Jews, or they don't speak to them at all. It's almost like they don't actually read their Bible or at least read into eschatology or prophecy, which this is not what this video is about, but it's almost like they don't read into that, and it's almost like they omit certain portions of the Old Testament that help kind of explain why it is so many people are passionate about this topic. They just choose not to do that. But still, though, nevertheless, what was actually said? Well, here's some of it. Hopefully, YouTube won't limit the ads, and you guys will see why it is that people are practically calling for her to be canceled.
Why would you want, as a small nation that is the size of New Jersey, okay, why would you want the pedophiles to flee there? Like, why would you want the pedophiles to be procreating? Unless the nation of Israel may have been established by some Frankists. And it's looking like Theodore Herzl's family was from the exact same area in Moravia and in Bohemia where the Frankist cult was founded. Crazy when you get into his family, that like maybe Theodore Herzl, who wrote in a book that he didn't care how many, maybe he was not actually a Torah worshiping Jew. Like, I don't know. I'm just throwing out some ideas here. And by throwing out some ideas, I mean, I've read a ton of books and I've figured it out. Okay. I am just like so over the idea that Israel is our ally and friend. If another person says that stupid statement, I'm going to personally punch you in the face. I am. It's going to be me. That's a joke. Don't take this video.
There was also some stuff about the Franks and Catholics going missing and stuff like that. Look. I have no idea how much of that is true or not true. This is not a history channel. I do love history, but I love typically just American history, especially military history. I don't really know as much as far as the history all the way down to the first century AD when it comes to Europe. But still, at the same time, though, obviously a lot of people got hot about this. However, this right here does beg the question about the people who feel that America should not be supporting said nation in the Middle East. And I came across this very, very interesting little TikTok here, which I think actually answers a lot of the people who have that bit of derangement in them.
I'm going to personally punch you in the face. I am. It's going to be me. That's a joke. Don't take this video off of Twitter. Wink.
All right, then punch me in the face, Candace, because something tells me you don't pack much of a punch, and you're 100% wrong on this. I know that anti-Semitism rots people's brains, but it's really insane to see people like Candace, who were seen once as like these great representatives of the young conservative and black conservative movement, delve so far into such lunacy. Namely that Israel isn't our ally. In what way is Israel not our ally? Apparently enough people don't understand this, but yes, we do give Israel military aid, just like we give to all of these countries. That's called soft power. Back in the old days, we would start wars all the time if we wanted countries to do things our way. Now we can use things like giving aid money so that they stay on our side and act in our interests without having to go to war. I thought you were super anti-war, no new wars, right? Why are you against soft power then? Specifically, when we talk about the military aid we give them, it's about $3.8 billion a year, which is a ton of money. I'd love that in my bank account. But in the overall scheme of things, that's less than 1% of the US annual budget. And that $3.8 billion is not just cash that goes in their pocket that they can use on their healthcare system. It's a credit that they need to use to buy US military equipment. Old equipment that we pay to store that we would never use. So they buy our old equipment, freeing up US funds instead of paying to store it that we can buy new equipment.
It's about foreign policy. It's about having friends overseas. Let me give you an example of what I mean. And I can already hear somebody saying that this right here is going to be the neoconservative take that obviously we want to get away from. Well, here's the thing. If we fully disengage from the world, we actually become a lot more vulnerable. That does not mean, however, that there are certain nations that we give money to that, quite frankly, we shouldn't be giving money to. For example, France, they're kind of a freeloader. Germany has not been the best ally in the world recently, and there are also other nations in Europe that I don't want to go through right now that have also been somewhat on the freeloading side. However, there have also been nations like, say, Spain, for example, who've actually stepped it up when it comes to the overall amount of money to kick in for defense. The fact of the matter is that in the Middle East, especially that region of the world, which always finds a way to be hot, it's a good idea to have some friends. And something else, too, that needs to be said. What's good for America tends to be good for Israel. We'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second because it reminds me of something that a former president said, who, by the way, was pretty much for the most part impeached and got rid of by the establishment. Not officially, he resigned, but of course you guys are seeing him in the B-roll footage. There's also this other thing that I'm going to be talking about a little bit later on this week about the politically disinfected, especially over this same said topic because of what you guys are seeing at the DNC. And obviously Cornel West and Jill Stein are picking up on this, which makes me wonder if there's going to be another resurgence after the election, but we'll talk about that in a later video. The fact of the matter is this right here. You need to have friends in that region, okay? Let me go back in time and give you guys a couple of examples. When Bush was in office during his second term, this right here is when Libya, the people in Libya started to really truly act up. Well, Bush put in a phone call to Muammar Gaddafi. Now, Gaddafi obviously was not a friend of the country, but still at the same time, though, we got along with him in those days, even though he obviously was not a friend to America, but we got along with him. Put in a call to Gaddafi, he puts those people, gets them straight, we got nothing to worry about. Same thing with Hosni Mubarak, same thing happened. You could put a phone call to these people if the people of their nation were getting out of hand, especially with their protests, or say their protests against, say, Israel, for example, or even the possibility of another hot war starting. Remember, Iran and Iraq also fought a bloody war against one another as well. The fact is, it basically pays to have good relationships with nations overseas. However, there is one more thing that does in fact need to be said. And of course, it's the possibility that Candace may have just been, I don't know, just being Candace. You see, every now and again, she'll throw these crazy takes out there. And of course, you've got people out there who are looking at Candace Owens' husband, and they're starting to ask questions about his connection to Andrew Tate and why it is that Candace just did an interview with Tristan Tate here recently. People are asking questions and people are trying to look into it. And I don't think there's anything there just yet. We may discuss that at a later date. But of course, I've also given my thoughts on Andrew Tate. I really and truly don't care that much regardless, because I haven't really been able to actually look into his situation. You've got people saying that he's guilty of all the crap he's being accused of, but you also got people saying that he's innocent and not guilty. Like I said, there'll be a day for that, and I've even done a couple of videos giving you guys my thoughts on him. I don't really have anything negative to say about the guy or really anything positive to say about the guy. Kind of a mixed bag if you ask me. But still, though, Candace does throw out takes like what you guys are about to see now, which, quite frankly, kind of makes you wonder if what she was saying this past weekend was really from the heart.
President Nicolas Maduro. We all know who Nicolas Maduro is. And my suspicion is he's actually about to be killed. And I'll tell you why they're calling it electoral scam. First among them, Milei in Argentina. Now, I want to be very clear. I don't trust anything that crawls out of Argentina with blue eyes. There's a reason for that. And that reason is because after World War II, a lot of Argentinians suddenly had blue eyes. And so I do not trust Milei. Maduro responded to Milei by calling him a cowardly bug and a traitor to the homeland and a fascist. Now, the fascist part might be true. I don't know. I got to see his genealogy because I just don't trust anything with blue eyes.
That bit about Milei right there, kind of funny. I mean, she's kind of playing on the old trope that the Nazis and Aryans went down to Argentina after World War II and created a stronghold. I mean, every now and again she'll do. I mean, check it out. Look, check it out, guys. When she got fired from the Daily Wire, when she got removed from the Daily Wire, a lot of people think that Ben Shapiro is the one who got rid of her. And even though Ben Shapiro was all giddy and happy on Piers Morgan about her being gone, Candace Owens had revealed the previous year on Tucker Carlson that Ben wasn't really in charge, nor was Jeremy Boring. They had a lot more pro-MAGA, America First people working at the Daily Wire, and they told her that her job was mostly safe. However, this stuff I'm showing you guys in the B-roll footage that she also tweeted out about Brigitte Macron, she does this type of stuff from time to time, and of course, at some point in time, you got to understand this is kind of who she is. Like I said, I don't agree with what she said. I think a lot of what she said was crazy, but also at the same time, though, after a while, you kind of understand her personality. However, there is a concern going forward that I will address in a video later on this week about those who were disaffected because of the Israel-Hamas war. But then we get into the topic of whether it is okay to criticize said nation. Does it make you anti-Semitic to criticize them? Well, this right here was let's just say, it was the meat of the discussion that Vinny and Adam had. Now, really quick, I've said this right here before. I am very, very much in favor of free speech. I don't believe Candace Owens should get canceled. I don't agree with her takes on Israel. Like I said before, I think she's not as knowledgeable as she thinks she is on this stuff. But still, though, she does have freedom of speech like I have freedom of speech. I'll defend her right to say what the hell she's saying, even though I don't agree with her. But does it make you anti-Semitic to criticize a nation? Does it make you anti-Semitic to criticize a person? Well, that's kind of the fear. The fear is that if you say something negative about what Israel, which, by the way, Israel is at war. This is wartime. And I'm not justifying some of the horrific acts that happen during war, but obviously they happen. And I think it's always best to let the fog of war clear and we get a better idea of what's going on before we make actual proper judgment. So therefore, me also being a military veteran, kind of understand this, kind of understand that maybe it might not be a good idea to pass judgment on what's going on with the individual troops, soldiers, and leaders at this moment in time. But of course, that right there is where we kind of cross into the gray a little bit more, which I will speak about a little bit more on the other side of Vinny's little rant.
You think she's anti-Semitic?
I don't think she did, but now she probably does.
And okay, so you believe that Candace Owens internally hates Jewish people? Like Adam,
Well,
she
I
doesn't
don't-
like you.
I don't.
I'm just asking yes or
see,
no.
See, that's the problem.
No, I have to get to my point because all she's doing, Adam, is pointing things out that forever were forbidden. You could never anti-Semite now because I'm proving that not only did they not get in trouble, Israelis came to the prison and rioted to get those soldiers out, and then the soldiers were released, and one of them was on camera saying, yeah, we did it, and what? So here's my point, Adam. Just because You want to criticize a certain Adam. People criticize the United States all the time. I criticize as a veteran George Bush Jr. and the act of disgustingness that he did with 9/11 and freaking Iraq and weapons of mass destruction.
Now I want to say something really quick. Let me just say this. I kind of take exception to what Vinny was saying at the very end, and here's what I take exception to. Vinny's a veteran like myself. I don't know if Vinny has done any combat tours. I don't know. I'm not going to question on whether he has or hasn't. I'll look more into him a little bit later on, and I'm not going to hit his service or anything like that. But I want to say this, and I alluded to it in the previous segment. There's this thing called the fog of war. Right now, you've got Israel fighting Hamas, and of course, the nation of Israel gets rocket strikes. All that. I mean, there's a reason why the Iron Dome is there. Okay? There's constant threats from Iran. Iran constantly screams death to America, or at least their leadership does. So obviously you're going to be a little bit more paranoid when dealing with a certain group of people. These people just happen to be in the Middle East. They also tend to hate the nation that we quite frankly support, which we'll talk a little bit more here in a second to close the video out. But the thing is this right here. In the fog of war, we don't really and truly know what the hell is going on. And of course, some of the stuff that he says may have actually been true. Of course, there are things you can criticize others about. However, I think it best that we wait till the fog of war, or we wait till the war ends and we actually begin to actually look at the death tolls, the death counts, and all that type of stuff before we really and truly dig into what was right and what was wrong. Oftentimes, people who love to criticize the way a conflict goes are typically people who've never actually seen conflict or combat before. I've seen combat before, and I don't want to criticize the leadership for how things were conducted. Like I said before, oftentimes it's people who, quite frankly, don't see combat who feel the need to criticize every 2 seconds those who are actually in combat. And that little bit about WMDs and George W. Bush and Iraq, I want to go ahead and say this right now. I don't regret not one single second of my service in my 2 deployments. And the reason why I don't regret it is because, while we probably shouldn't have been there, I got to need to say this. The whole term WMD, weapons of mass destruction, was kind of hijacked. And Bush didn't really do us any favors by saying that, well, you know, we need to go in there and get the nuclear weapons out. Oh, God, we didn't fight. He didn't really do any. He didn't really do himself or anybody any favors by constantly repeating the WMD line. The truth be told is that it was actually NBC weapons. There's a video by Spectacles that was done on this that was actually pointing out the fact that, Saddam actually was producing these weapons and got away with a lot of this crap when Clinton was in office. Not mentioning the fact that, there were 3 separate opportunities to kill bin Laden when Bill Clinton was in office. So I think that Vinny is way off base with that take there. I just figure I would point that out. However, I did tell you guys that there was a proper way to think about this situation, especially with Israel, especially if you're pro-Israel. However, there is a bit of a caveat with it. And of course, that right there would be exactly what former President Richard Nixon said.
Their belief is that being for Israel first means that does not mean you're putting America second, because they think it goes together. An American president, however, has to approach it in a different way, in my opinion. He's got always to think first of what is best for America. Usually, what is best for America is also best for Israel and vice versa. On occasions, an American president must make a decision that does not, in effect, give the Israelis a blank check. And one example of that is a decision that I made. I decided early on in our administration that we were going to seek good relations with Egypt and others of Israel's neighbors. Many of my Israeli friends didn't like that because they wanted a special relationship with Israel and Israel only. But I have always said Israel's interests are better served to have the United States a friend of Israel's neighbors and potential enemies than to leave a vacuum which the Soviet Union would fill. I still believe that, and I think that should be American policy.
What's good for America is good for them. Also, to go on top of that, you still want to establish friendships with those who are open to being friends with you in said nation, in said region, because the region has a tendency to get hot. Also, to go on top of that, it's also the chief energy supplier of the world. Now, I would love to see America get away from that, and I think that, if anything, if there's a certain nation that you probably should feel deranged about, it should not be Israel. It should probably be Saudi Arabia. You had petrodollar, all that type of stuff there. But still, at the same time, though, the caveat in this entire situation is that obviously you've got nations like, say, Lebanon, where you've got Hezbollah, who hates America and hates Israel both. You've also got nations like, say, Qatar and Yemen with the Houthis that hate America as well. Iran hates America. Obviously, you're going to choose your friends wisely, and obviously you're going to have good relationships with nations outside just Israel, because obviously you would like to create a bit of a coalition. I mean, there were the Camp David Accords, and the Trump administration was trying to create those. Meanwhile, since the Biden administration has been in office, they've obviously made matters a lot worse due to his weakness. But I did tell you guys to close this video out, I was going to explain exactly what I think happens to Candace. Nothing. Even if Candace Owens was magically canceled over this, even if she was magically canceled over this, she'd be fine. She's married to a wealthy husband. She's got a lot of money. She's obviously still got Elon Musk, who will platform her. She's obviously got other sites she can go to. And even though she's going to be viewed as a bit of a persona non grata among certain conservative communities, I think after a while, most people will just look at this and say that it's probably nothing. However, I did say there was going to be a video a little bit later on this week to talk about some of the disaffected groups, or groups that, quite frankly, don't want to be politically active, or groups that are going to be politically active but are going to throw away the nominee once the election is over with. So make sure you guys stick around for that. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.